Hello everyone and welcome back to SGTV. Today we have David Savery joining us once again. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
That's a Home Alone joke, that is.
It's rubbish, isn't it? I'm appearing in full low-res mode today as well, it seems. I'm not sure quite why that is, so apologies for the camera quality.
That's fine, Dave. So today we're going to be talking to you about customer relations. So I know when we've had you on the show before, we've briefly touched on this, but I want to go a bit further into depth, mainly for our audience's help, really, to help them so they can sort of get an understanding of how they gain customers, keep customers, and the general sort of communication between their customers from the start to the finish of a job. So we'll start off. I just want to ask you, in general, how do you go about getting customers?
Well, obviously, the way we work today is completely different to the way we worked at the beginning. The hard part, of course, is finding that customer base in the first place. At the moment, we've got a massive customer base that has been built up over the years. That keeps us pretty busy. But for me, there's certain tried and true ways that you can't really fail on. The first thing is to perhaps get in with other trades, builders, plumbers, etc. In fact, I was just a few moments ago on the phone to a carpenter who I've worked with just for the first time, who's just fitted a bespoke kitchen in, and he was asking me whether we'd be interested in hooking up on future projects of his. He was asking for my details, and that's just a few moments ago.
Is that a common thing that you get?
Yeah, because obviously trades need to be able to rely on other trades. When you've got a builder, for example, who may be requiring a plasterer, a plumber, a Sparky, and goodness knows what else, there's a certain schedule that they're trying to stick to, and certain things need to happen in the right order in order for them to be able to progress. So if they find that they can rely upon you to turn up when you say you will, which is always the most important thing, and that your charges are reasonable, and obviously you seem to know enough about what you're doing that you're not a complete disaster, then they'll come to rely upon you, and they'll come to call you back again and again and again. And that's one of the best ways to get in, really, because obviously if you're in with other trades, not only will you be called in by those trades when they need you, but they'll be recommending you to their clients. So they're doing a job where you're not involved. There's no electrics involved, for example. Maybe your builder's doing some basic bricklaying, building a wall or something. If the homeowner says, "Oh, do you know a Sparky?" Obviously you're going to be the guy whose name gets given out. So it does pay to be in the pocket of other trades, but by the same token, you've absolutely got to make sure you're supporting them 100%. So when the builder says, "I need you to come and cut these downlights in because we're getting the ceiling overboarded or plastered or painted or whatever in the next few days," then you need to be able to find the time to do that. So if you keep some time in the week for these sort of events, then you can get away with it. It's very difficult, of course, if you fill your week up. If you've got a week fully planned, then you've got not necessarily got the room to accommodate it. And by the same token, you're reliant on those other trades like your builder to give you some notice. The first builder I used to work with, I don't work with him anymore. He was quite bad at notice. He'd be the kind of person who would phone up saying, "I need you here tomorrow. The new floor's going down tomorrow. I need you to come and get your cables in underneath it." And it's like, crikey, mate, you must have known this was happening a few days ago or whatever. You could have given me a bit of a heads up. So they're not necessarily the kind of people you necessarily want to be working with, but where you can get this symbiotic relationship with a trade where they're ahead of their game enough to know when they need you and to give you the notice, and you're ahead of your game enough to be able to move your schedule to suit them, then it works really well. Apart from that, another good place to get business from is your local parish magazine, if you have one.
I've heard this before, actually. It's not something I've really ever looked at, to be honest, but I do hear a lot of people saying they're advertising in these local gazettes or magazines and they're getting quite a good amount of work.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We've got one that goes around where I live in Whitnash. It goes around. It's better than a leaflet drop because it lands on every doormat and everybody looks in it. Unlike a leaflet drop where you just want to pick up your leaflet and chuck it straight in the recycling bin. This thing lands. People want to know what the local gossip is, what the local articles are about, what the local upcoming events are. Not that there's a lot of any of that going on at the moment with all this COVID stuff, but when it lands, obviously, you know, people are going to flick through that, and it's great because it goes onto every doormat. It's relatively cheap. I've got a feeling they have put their prices up. I think at the moment it's something about 75, 80 quid for a half-page colour ad. And like I say, it lands on thousands of doorsteps in the area. And even if you're in the middle of a big city, it's still worth you looking at outlying towns and villages, because if your city or your part of the city doesn't have anything like that, then outlying towns that are within your commute probably do, and it's worth getting in there. Obviously, you've got to go try and get hold of a copy of one of these things to see what the competition is, and if there's loads of other people already in the same competing field already advertising in there, then unless you can do something to stand out from them, it may not be worth it. But they are excellent ways to get your name out there, because you've got all the old dears who of course aren't on the internet, so they rely on these sort of things to find their tradespeople because they don't have the yellow pages anymore. And then you've got people who are new to the area, just moved in, they haven't got a base of friends and neighbours around that they can ask for local trade recommendations. So if they can pick up this publication and see your advert in there, then we do get the call saying, "Oh, I've just moved to the area. I saw your ad in the Whitnash Times, Sterling publication it is. Would you come and look at this job for me?" And again, once you're in with a client, then super. But the word of mouth, of course, is the best one to have. People doing your advertising for you, going around saying, "Yeah, use this guy. We've used him before. He turned up when he said he was going to. He charged what he said he was going to, and did the job as he said he was going to."
Is the Gazette the only place you pay for advertising, or do you do other forms?
No, well, these days, yes, that's the only place that I would spend money on advertising. And even then, I've not been in it for some time, perhaps 18 months or so, partly because of things like COVID slowing things down. So these publications haven't been going out so much. In fact, I'm not sure when the last one came out was. But before COVID happened, I'd already pulled the advertising, at least for the autumn, winter, which are my busy periods anyway, because there's no point paying for advertising if you feel you can't field the incoming queries. And that's part of the problem I've had recently, is that there's just too much coming in. So great position to be in, of course, but
yeah,
difficult to even keep on top of the queries coming in. And a lot of people are probably going away thinking I'm very rude because I never answered their email or never returned their phone call or whatever. And it's just volume of stuff coming in. There's not enough hours in the day to try and keep on top of it. And it's funny because I remember we had a gas man around before I was in the trades. Had a gas man around years ago when we still had gas, to fix a leak, and there was something else we wanted him to do, and said, "Oh, can you provide a quote for that?" And he never did, never came back to us. I remember moaning at the wife saying, "I wish I was in a position where I didn't have to worry about customers and could just ignore their queries when they're trying to get me to do work."
Wishes come true.
And it's happening right now, and it's terrible. You don't want to be in that position, but you know, there's only me fielding these things. Nige, he's on the tools, of course, but he's not doing any of the back end stuff. So there's only me around it, and I don't want to take calls in the day because I think it's always very rude to be on somebody else's coin trying to do the job and stopping to answer the phone, which does ring quite a lot. So the calls are always go to voicemail, and I do try and catch up with them, but sometimes some slip through the net because, you know, there are so many of them, and at the end of the day you're knackered and you think, "I'll deal with that later," and you sometimes just don't get around to it. It's the same when you go to the wholesaler, for example, as when you're standing at the counter, you've been standing there for ages, you're waiting to be served, and then the phone rings and they pick up the phone. I always think that's very rude. It's like, no, I've made the effort to be here. Ignore the phone, ignore whoever's on the phone. You know, they're not here. I'm standing here money in hand, ready to do business with you. So it's difficult to keep on top of when you become, if you become popular, or if you have a big enough customer base that you know the things just come in naturally, and you don't need to chase it so much anymore. And there are even steps I've taken which may be surprising to people. For example, I came off Google. So if you search for electrician in Leamington or electrician in Warwick or whatever, I don't come up. A lot of other people come up. I don't come up. You can find me if you search for me by name, but obviously that's a targeted search. I don't come up in a cold search, and that does the heads in of SEO people. They can't understand that at all. Like I was on the phone to someone at Yale the other day who was saying, "What do you mean we can get you on the first page of Google?" No, I don't need to be there. I don't want to be there, and I'm not going to pay you to be there.
Yeah. It's a good position to be in, though, that you're busy enough that you can do that.
It is, yeah. And obviously you've got things like for people who are trying to get started, you've got being on as many search engines as you can get on and being highly ranked. Yes, that is a good way to get work in, especially if you're also working for a company where you've got a lot of people in the field and you need to keep them busy. Yeah, then yes, you want to be at the top of that. Nigel and I are a very small operation. As I've said before, a very lazy operation. We're not trying to oversubscribe our day. We just want to get through every working day as soon as we can, tick it off the list and walk away with our pittance. But so we don't need to be sort of at the forefront of directories such as Google or Yale or whatever. And we certainly don't need to be paying the likes of directory services like your checker trades and your rated peoples and those sort of things, which I have no time for whatsoever. I think something just came up on my screen about I'm signed out.
Still here with me, Dave, yeah?
Sorry about that. Yes, I feel like those sort of directory services where you're charged, they sort of get between you and the client. I understand they're providing a service, and yes, again, if you haven't got a reputation, you haven't got a big customer base to fall back on, then yes, it may be worth being on those sort of sites to quickly build that sort of thing up. The trouble is, once you're locked in with loads of reviews, loads of positive reviews, if you manage to gain them on a site like that, you kind of you are locked in. You're kind of at their mercy, held to ransom. They can put up the price to whatever they want, and they do. Yeah. All of a sudden, you see people complaining that they're having to spend so much money to maintain their membership of this thing. There was another one, Chris at CJR had a video recently, which is quite interesting. He's on one of these sites where a customer puts in a job, and I'm not quite sure how it works, but if the site perceives you to have been successful in obtaining that lead, then you're charged £15 plus VAT or something. But that job may then fall through, so you're paying the site to this job that you've then not monetized, and it's a big overhead. I'm not interested in any of those sort of things. I think there's just a bunch of salespeople getting very rich off the sweat of tradespeople because they managed to insert themselves between the trade and the client. And okay, I can see that some people are happy with that and can use that to get their business off the ground and keep it going. It's not something I felt I ever needed.
Yeah. You can certainly see it from a customer's point of view who doesn't have much experience in dealing with tradesmen and they need work doing, that they can go on somewhere and see, oh, this person's well rated. But like you say, they're not going to know what you know, how it can affect the tradesmen themselves.
And that's the problem, isn't it? You're quite right. A lot of customers are still wary of tradespeople because of the negative perception that we're all got our bottoms hanging out of our trousers and we're just going to suck air through our teeth and say, who did that then for you? And going to make up a figure and then ask for it up front in cash and then run away with it, or do a really bad job, or say, right, that'll be another £3,000 please, or something like that. And yes, there are those people out there, and
sounds like a good idea, that. A good way of making money.
New business model. There are plenty of people who've been monetizing that for years. But yes, there are people who are our clients who are nervous of being the victim of those sort of scams, those sort of rogue traders, and they are led into a sense of security by these sites that use words like trusted and rated. But these sites, by the same token, there's no guarantees with them. If you look at their terms and conditions, they all say we're just providing a service to meet client with tradesperson. If it goes sour, we don't want to know about it. We're not going to. We may provide some basic level of arbitration, but we're not going to refund anything. We're not going to kick anyone off our database. We're not going to do anything we don't want to do because it's our sandpit and our rules. So I think that, and I know that there are people, I remember Paul Meenan on Group E5 was one who was saying he got a very negative experience from using someone who came from one of these sites and was checked and vetted and assured, and he said the guy didn't know what he was doing. He looked like he'd been in the game for 5 minutes, didn't have a clue, and made things worse than when he started, I think he said. But certainly you've got to be careful of these sites that throw these terms around. They're not necessarily what they say they are. A lot of the reviews are skewed to the positive. If you want to leave a negative review on some of these sites, you're very much encouraged not to. And they'll try and sort of work it so that you don't end up leaving the review that perhaps you feel you want to leave. And that, again, reviews are problematic. People should be able to say what they want to say. They should be honest and open, but at the same time, these sites that manage the reviews, Google being one of the worst ones of the lot, should make sure that reviews are from legitimate clients airing legitimate grievances.
Earlier you mentioned about how you've almost got two different bases of bringing work in. You've got end user customers, and then you've got tradesmen themselves who are diverting you onto jobs. Do you find that will affect not only how you bill a job, but also the communication between the customer? So I'm guessing that if you've been requested from the customer themselves, you're going to be communicating with them from start to finish. But is that a different instance if you've gone through a tradesman?
That's a very good question. Most of the time, if a tradesperson appoints us to do some work, we're dealing with the customer or their customer directly. We're not doing it as a subcontractor of the tradesperson. And that's generally because of accounting problems that comes up. I can't remember, is it the CIS scheme? I can't remember what it is now. My accounting knowledge is hopeless. But I know that my builder's accountant and my accountant we've been caught up in the past where we've fallen foul of some scheme to do with accounting that I don't understand. It's like, well, what's the problem here? I'm just billing for a job that I've been asked to do. Nobody's trying to screw anybody in any kind of way. So normally we deal directly with the tradesperson's client. There was another reason for that. I'm trying to remember what it was now. Again, this is another brain blank. Sorry about this, Ben. There was an incident in the past where what happened? I can't remember. There was something where a builder asked us to do something, and that was it. Yeah, this is why I fell out with my original builder, in fact, because the builder he was doing a large extension on a semi-detached house. It was a side and rear 2-story extension, so it was extending this house by quite an amount. And my builder had gone there, priced it all up, said, "Oh, this is going to cost £60,000 or whatever, or £80,000, whatever." It sounded cheap for what was being done anyway. But he looked at it and he thought, electrical work, 500 quid. And then he appointed me to sort out the electrical work. And in the end, the electrical work came to, I think it was 1,500 quid. What he said to me was, right, okay, well, you bill the client then. And he walked away. And the client for 6 weeks didn't answer my emails, didn't answer my phone calls, wasn't in when I knocked on the door, and I'm like, I'm in the hole for 1,500 quid here, and what's going on? And the problem was, of course, that the client was never the person who'd appointed me to the work. The builder had. So I was peeved because he's the one who says, right, you do this job. And although the client ultimately will be the guy paying for it, the client was never the person who appointed me. And here's me trying to chase him now for payment without success. So I was going back to the builder saying, well, this is your debt. You appointed me to the job. The invoice is in your name, you pay it. And he just didn't see it that way. In the end, I did manage to get payment from him, but he was livid that he'd had to pay it rather than the client, although he was taking payment from the client for the whole job anyway. So, you know, it didn't make any sense really, because the client was paying him the same amount as he would have been paying me. It just didn't make any sense, but he felt that he'd been unfairly treated in some kind of way, and that was the end of our working relationship.
Have there been instances where customers have requested you do a job and they have not wanted to pay?
Few and far between. I don't think there's ever been any instance where they've said, I'm not paying that at all. There's certainly been people who've balked at the invoice, even if they knew beforehand what it was going to be. Usually there are chances of someone trying it on, and there's a couple of things. There's the landlords who say, I remember giving one, this landlord, he got me to do some work on one of his horrible student properties, and I handed him the invoice, and he sucked air through his teeth. Oh, I don't know if I want to pay all this. Well, you knew up front what it was going to be. And he was saying, look, I've got loads of other properties that I could put work onto your way as well. He was kind of saying, like, if you do this for me cheap, then we'll see it as a quantity discount against other work that I can give you, which just means that I'll be doing it cheap for you elsewhere as well. And it's like, no, that's not the way it's going to work, mate. I'm not going to dangle that carrot in front of me, because it might never happen. So like, no, that's the invoice. You pay it. You knew what it was beforehand. And there was another one. A lady, her house was dreadful in that she'd had some, I think she said it was an uncle or something had done a load of building work for her, and he'd done a load of electrical work, and it was just dreadful. And there were literally live copper hanging out of walls because the lights hadn't been put on the end of it, and the cables had been trimmed and they were live and they're hanging out the walls. One of the consumer units, it actually plasterboarded over. It's like there's another consumer unit behind this wall, and you have to break the wall out to get to it. Final finishes had been put in some places before even cables had been run in, and it was just a mess of a place. And I said to her, look, I'll do a day rate for you for this amount, just to come and tackle what I can tackle to try and make this safer and undo some of this dreadfulness that's going on. So I went there, and I got there it was just around the corner for me. I got there at 9:10 for whatever reason. I was probably dealing with some calls or something beforehand. I didn't have any tea breaks. I had one lunch break for 45 minutes where I came home and had something to eat. And then I finished at the end of the day at 20 to 7 at night. So, you know, but I said to her that I was going to charge this amount for the day. So this is a day rate. And I gave her the invoice, and she said, oh, well, I'm not paying this. You haven't been here all day. And I was like, you what? She said, well, you didn't come here until 9:10, and then you disappeared for a while. And I was like, yeah, but I disappeared for a 45-minute lunch, which I'm entitled to. I've had no other breaks today, and it's 20 to 7 at night. It's like, I don't know what constitutes a day in your mind, but. And anyway, so I think she knocked 30 quid off or something. And I think when you're with someone like that, at the time I was thinking, right, okay, this is fine. I'm going to take that hit, and I'm going to do two things with it. First of all, I'm going to use that as a learning experience. And the first thing I did was scrap my day rate. I'm not doing day rates anymore. You pay for the amount of hours I'm on site. So I'm never going to get caught out by that again. And I amended my terms and conditions to say, you will be charged for the time on site, and that it's all Google tracked on the mobile phone. I know what time I've got there and what time I've left and all that sort of stuff. And the second thing I did was I wrote her a letter saying, there's still a bunch of outstanding work there. Here's what I've done. I'm disappointed that you felt it wasn't value for money and you withheld some of the payment, and I won't ever be back. And obviously there was still a whole bunch of outstanding things still to do. And she rang the next day, and I didn't take the call, and I let it go to voicemail, and she was there on the voice again. Oh no, sorry, I thought we did a great job, and I was really pleased, and I do want this extra stuff doing, and it all still needs sorting out. Not interested. And she had a couple of other people, I think family members, tried to phone me over the coming weeks saying, "Oh, will you go back and sort out what he's doing?" No. I'll give someone an opportunity once to screw me over, and then that's that. You get these occasionally. The other ones I've had surprisingly been on fault finding, because I've been deemed to have found the fault too quickly, which is obviously an omni nonsense. If I find the fault quickly, it's only because I've got the technical expertise and training and equipment and tools to be able to diagnose what the problem is and get to the bottom of it, or just plain look, it may be even that you happen to stumble on it earlier than later. Yeah. There are these factors that come into it, but the fact is you're paying for me to find a fault, and if I turn up on site and find the fault, brilliant, then that's what you've paid for. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 minutes to find that fault or 3 hours. It's not better value for money if it took longer for the money. And again, this is one where I've done work for this lady before, done installation work. She was on my list of happy customers. She had this problem, had this fault. She phoned up in the evening, my RCD's tripping off, and I didn't want to go out and do it. I'd already signed off work for the day. I was about to open my beer, and it was a nice hot summer's night. I was going to sit outside and not think about trying to get someone's RCD working. So I talked her through over the phone what to do, unplug everything, see if you can get it to come back on with everything unplugged, and then start plugging stuff in again. And if it trips when you plug something in, then a good chance that's it. And she phoned back saying, "Well, we've done all that and it's still tripping off. Can you come out and sort it out?" So load all the tools back on the van, drive out to her house, get there and get the IR tester on it, see that this particular socket circuit serving the kitchen has got a bad IR. So, all right, let's start in the kitchen then. Doesn't take me long to find the washing machine still plugged in. Okay, unplug that. IR shoots up, and there's your fault fixed. Now, when I turned up, they were already starting dismantling their kitchen because they thought, maybe it's the fridge, and we can't unplug the fridge because the kitchen fitter's done it so that the plug's behind the fridge. They were pulling their kitchen apart, and it was nothing to do with the fridge. So I turned up, saved them from having to pull their fridge apart, got the power back on for them, gave them the bad news that it was the washing machine, but it turned out it was under warranty anyway, so that wasn't going to cost anything. And I charged my hourly rate for that, even though the whole thing was done and dusted in about 20 minutes. And she came back saying, "Well, you weren't here for an hour." I said, "Well, I should have charged you my emergency rate, considering I've gone out of my way this evening to sort this out for you. But I just charged you my hourly, and that's the price. Yeah, I'm putting on my time and expertise to sort this out." And I said to her, "But if you're not happy with that, then you just pay whatever you feel is suitable."
There's always going to be bad customers, aren't there?
Well, she came back and she paid half of it, and with a note that I believe better reflects the time and effort you spent on site. I thought, okay, well, now that I know how you value my time, you're never going to see me again. Because next time your RCD trips, or next time you need someone who you can rely on to come and do your electrical work, it won't be me.
Probably got time just for one more question. So let's talk about good customers. Do you have like a method of keeping customers?
Only in the fact that when we do book a job with a customer, we do make sure we turn up on time. We do make sure the paperwork beforehand is as complete as it can be. So if someone asks us to quote for a job, it is a very detailed pile of paperwork they get saying what the materials are, what labour element we've assigned to it, what the assumptions and observations are, what it is we're going to do, where they can verify our accreditations, where they can read reviews, all that sort of stuff. It's all there as a package given to them beforehand, which is perhaps gives people more confidence than the next guy who may just be. I mean, I know my old builder, his quotes were just usually one line saying, "Yes, I'll do this job for £30,000 or whatever." And he was always getting into trouble with his customers because there was never any agreement on what that actually covered. And his customers had in their head an idea of what was going to be done, and he had in his head an idea of what was going to be done, and it was never put into writing exactly where the two met. So we'd get to the end of the job and say, right, I've fitted your new kitchen, I've built your extension, that'll be my money, please. And they'd be like, well, aren't you going to do this bit as well? And he'd always be complaining about it, going, oh, they're getting me to do all this extra stuff. And like, yeah, but you didn't agree it beforehand, you know. But so my clients, they get all this bump on a quoted job or on a job where we've estimated, and we turn up on time, and generally the estimates are usually pretty accurate. In fact, we try to overestimate. I say we, it's only me who does them. Try to overestimate if possible, because it's always better to allow extra time and to come in under budget, and then the client's even more pleased because they thought it was going to cost X, and instead it costs X minus a little bit, which obviously makes you look better, but it also gives you a bit of wiggle room just in case things take a little bit longer than expected. So usually they're paying the price they expected to pay. The job's been done according to their expectations. Obviously, we try and make sure the workmanship is to standard. It's all done on the day they expected it to be done. And that's another thing you've got to be careful of if you're oversubscribing your day, because if a lot of customers, they'll take a day off work in order for you to come and do the job. So if you don't turn up at the time you say you're going to turn up,
yeah, it's going to upset your customer quite a bit, isn't it?
It's just providing good customer service, really. Then the problem with us is, when you're on the books and we're doing the job for you, you'll get great customer service. Before you get on the book, it's pretty naff because I get, as I was saying earlier, I get so many emails and calls coming in. I can't keep on top of them, and there'll be people going, "No, that David Savery's rubbish. I left him a message for him to call me back and come and quote for this job, or he came and looked at the job and he never provided me a quote for it." And it's just because there's not enough hours in the day for me to keep on top of it, or there's too much. So there are people who will say, "Oh, this guy's rubbish because he doesn't give you a quote when he says he will." And I always say to people, "Look, don't rely on me. Go out and get quotes from other people, because even if I do give you a quote, it may turn out I can't do the job for whatever reason. I can't meet your timing expectations, or something else will come up, or there may be reasons why you have to go elsewhere. So never rely upon me." So yeah, it's great once someone has been confirmed and we say, yes, we'll do your job and we're going to be there 9 o'clock a week Thursday, because you're golden. Then you're going to be covered, and hopefully you're going to come out of it happy, because we are going to turn up at 9 o'clock Thursday and do what you wanted. But like I say, it's getting to that stage. That's the hard part for a lot of potential customers, and I appreciate that there's probably frustration out there.
Yeah.
But there's only me trying to keep on top of all this, and there's only so many hours in the day, and it wears you down.
Yeah, but as we said at the beginning of the episode, it's a good position to be in for someone like yourself. You're self-employed, who is busy enough to be like that.
Yeah, but at the same token, it's that what sticks with you is not the happy customers; it's the people you let down. It's just like when you get negative reviews or whatever, or negative press, or bad feedback on a video or whatever it is. It's always that sticking over the positives. And yeah, it's horrible having that feeling of you're scrolling through your emails and you see one from 3 weeks ago. Oh, did I not answer that? Oh, blimey, that makes me look bad. And I feel bad for the client because I haven't met their expectations and haven't done what they wanted me to do. But that's the way it's always going to be, I think.
Dave, I think that's all we've got time for today. So as always, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Anyone out there watching, I hope you found this useful. Also, if you have bad experiences, good experiences, tips and tricks that you use with your customers to keep customers, put them in the comments section below. We always like reading them. And please always make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification button below. You'll see more from me at SGTV. There's plenty more videos of Dave Savery here on SGTV, so be sure to check them out. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Woo! Yep. Right then.